グロい遺体損壊も悪趣味な装飾も全て俺たちを怖がらせるための演出。
誰を怖がらせるためなのですか？
だからそれは俺たちを。
After hearing that one line, Virgil spoke so casually. My thoughts clouded over once again. Is it really enough to just use the vague word us? There are a lot of people in the Shirumiya family. There's the head and the one who holds the rank of his successor, grandfather and Uncle Kraus. Our parents, who have some pull in the business world. On the other side, you have the young cousins, who usually visit at most once a year. And the unfortunate servants, who just happen to be on duty. Even if the culprit hated all of us, they probably didn't hate all of us equally. In other words, they might have made it clear which of those among us they particularly wanted to take revenge against and terrify. If we liken this to a kid eating dessert, isn't the strawberry on top of a shortcake the part you should eat last? No one tells you that you shouldn't eat first, but our mentality leads us into saving it for later.
じゃあ、最も恨んでいる人物を最後まで残したがるってことになるよな。
Which would be better, like in the fourth game.
ああ、俺の好きな小説の好きなキャラが言ってたぜ。そいつの親しいものから先に殺していって、悲しみを味わわせてから最後に本人を殺すってのが一番恐ろしい殺し方なんだみたいなこと。
おやおや、恐ろしい小説もあったものですね。桑原桑原。
じゃあ最後まで生き残るやつが最もベアトに恨まれてるって論法になるぜ。しかし毎回毎回殺される人間も順序もめちゃくちゃじゃねえか。最終的には死ぬにせよ、最後の晩まで毎回生き残るやつなんて。
Yep, it is better. Even with the random order of killing for each game. Like, one can say that a common pattern is that Valerie is basically among the last to die. The first game, the second game with the banquet, the third game, all games thus far. There's only me.
先に赤で申し上げておきましょう。バトラ君は犯人ではありませんよ。バトラ君は誰も殺してはいません。これは全てのゲームにおいて言えることです。
Well, it is reassuring.
ならなおのこと、俺ってことになる。
That Bella is not the culprit. Which means that if the man from 19 years ago is the culprit, that would surely take Bella out of the list. If I'm to find a detail that tells me that, hey, the man from 19 years ago is definitely the culprit. Which feels that way, but I don't have conclusive evidence. If I have that conclusive evidence, that will mean that I can take Bella out of the list, which would make Shannon and Kanon the ones that could have done it.
こいつが非分殺人を起こす唯一の理由は俺に見せつけるためってことになる。
That was always making out that she chooses who to kill next by roulette. But I'm an exception. The only exception. And though she does kill me in the end, she always leaves me be until the very last moment. In all these supposedly random games, There's only this one unchanging constant.
こいつは俺に復讐を、俺に恐怖を味わわせるために非分殺人を行っているというのか。
それは違います。恐怖を味わわせるのが目的ではありません。
In which case, if it's not fear, then it can be something else. Maybe to make Battler understand something.
誰かに復讐するためのものでもありません。
ならやはり非分殺人には意味なんてないことになる。非分の謎も無意味、対となる非分殺人も無意味。 X イコール Y イコール0。
X equal Y equal 0.
だがその無意味をこいつは明白に俺に対して見せつけている。無意味なことと同価値の何を俺に求めているんだ。わからねえ。考えれば考えるほどにこいつが何を考えてるのか俺にはわからね
え。Beatrice, the fickle witch who committed a meaningless, worthless serial murder. Even the riddle of the epitaph, which she made into a condition to spend the serial murders, is meaningless, immaterial. And she's thrusting this meaningless, immaterial thing in front of my face. What is it that you want from me? Or else, what is it that you want to give me? My idea that Beto must have been taking revenge on me has already been refuted and read by Virgilia. In both X and Y, both the epitaph murders and the epitaph's riddle mean nothing to Beto. X equal Y equals 0. However, since she's thrusting that in front of me, it must have some meaning. She presents us a pair of scales representing, if you don't solve the epitaph, I'll carry out the epitaph's murder. Neither the epitaph murders nor the epitaph's riddle have any significance by themselves. However, it becomes meaningful when she puts both halves on the scales and thrusts it out before us. No, before me. In other words, it should be like this. X equals 0. Y equals 0. X plus Y bigger than 0. A scale with meaningless, weightless things on both sides. However, it has weight itself, and gives the rest meaning.
まるで遊びだな。子供のじゃんけんみたいだ。
Rock, paper, scissors is the most immediate method of randomly determining a winner and a loser. You usually bet some sort of privilege on the outcome. But kids often do rock, paper, scissors just to play, without betting anything in particular. Unless you bet something, nothing but a feeling of joy or disappointment will come from a win or loss. In other words, the two sides of the scale, winning and losing, are both valueless. However, the very act of seeing which way it will tip is the reason kids play rock, paper, scissors. After all, the kids are enjoying the communication that surrounds the game, and they aren't purely interested in the value of winning or losing. They aren't overly concerned about who wins and who loses.
それじゃベアトにとって非分殺人は成功してもしなくてもいいものってことになっちまう。まるでその過程そのものを楽しんでいるかのようにさえ思える。
So her wanting people to solve the epitaph, which means nothing to her. It is only just her pulling rock, paper, scissors to either win or lose, which she doesn't care about, but rather cares about what the game itself represents. It kind of reminds me of something that I did recently. In Professor Layton and the Curious Village, there was a puzzle with a scale on the moon. He surely reached a conclusion that was sort of like how, like, the gravity is gonna affect the weight, but you also have to take into account the weight of the scale. So if I'm thinking about this, even if you don't put anything on the scale itself has weight.
以前の俺なら無意味な殺人を繰り返す非道な魔女だと決めつけ、こいつを罵っただろうさ。だが今の俺にはそうとは思えない。
ありがとう。だから赤をもう一つ与えましょう。ベアとは快楽目的で殺人を行っていることはありません。
She didn't do it for pleasure, and she didn't do it to make anyone feel fear. She has nothing to gain from the Epitaph murders, and she doesn't care whether they succeed or fail. It's almost like a random game kids would play.
違う。意味があるんだ。こいつには。
意味とは何ですか？
わからない。天秤の両端は無価値だ。こいつにとってこの天秤はしっかりと重みあるものなんだ。
Of course it isn't meaningless. Some meaning definitely exists. In a previous game, she urged me to remember my sin of 6 years ago. Was that meaningless too? No. There's no way that's the case. I clearly remember the serious look in her eyes at that moment. Unfortunately, I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. And she was devastated. That's right. At that time, I'm sure she even went so far as to say that the crime wouldn't have occurred if I hadn't come.
意味はあるんだ。こいつにとっては意味が。そしてそれを俺に求めてる。
I softly and poked Battle lightly on the head. Then petted her head.
ラブレターには次からは好きですと短く書くことを勧めるぜ。あまり回りくどくて難解だと意味が伝わらねえぞ。
That pretty much sums up Battle well, in my eyes, as far as I can see. I mean, I get it. It's all part of the game and such, but at the same time, it's not like we have IQ levels of 150 to understand all 53 of your layers. And you are being sad because Battler doesn't get you from the get-go? And on top of that, you are making it more difficult by not even wanting to talk at all. It never hurts to sometimes be a little bit more direct, Bato. You baka.
こいつが何を考えてるのか相変わらずさっぱりさ。だが俺は考えることをやめないぜ。まだまだチェス盤をひっくり返せ。お前の思考をたどる旅を俺は絶対にくじけないからな。
Battler did nothing but gaze lazily out the window. The fighting between the relatives continued without doubt. At first, the relatives had crowded around the study. However, no matter how much they knocked, the master of the study did not answer even once. Eva and several elders said that they should open the door with the second key, the one Genji held. However, in a flash of brilliance, Natsuki said that Kinzo had been in a particularly bad mood and had taken back the key he'd previously given Genji, meaning that he now had both keys himself. She claimed that it was therefore impossible for them to open the door. After she promised to let them meet Kinzo tomorrow morning no matter what, they finally returned to the dining hall. But, of course, the argument continued on even after they returned there. Eva's group wanted a lot of cash very soon, and they were trying to threaten Kraus somehow and make him pay up. Apparently, better solving the epitaph, which threatened Kraus's position as the next head, had given the others a huge tailwind. On the other side, Kraus and Natsuki had denied the very basis of their argument, claiming that it had never been specified that ownership of the gold would be handed over to the person who solved the epitaph. They asserted that it hadn't been hidden gold, but just Kinzo's stockpile. And it was still Kinzo's property, which meant that it was only natural for it to be distributed after Kinzo's death, with the rest of the inheritance. After hearing this, Eva's group once again started demanding that they be allowed to see Kinzo. Yeah, I've probably been clear as day from the beginning. This sibling fight could only be settled by Kinzo. It was obvious that this confrontation was between Eva's group, which wanted cash fast. They really needed a lot of money right now, and Kraus, who was hiding his lack of funds but still didn't need money right away. But still, he did need a lot of money right now. As Valor listened vaguely to this exchange, he marveled at how, despite their usual affluent airs, they were all surprisingly deep in debt.
それもさっき聞いた話ではないかね。もういい。休止しよう。お互い一度した話を延々と繰り返しているだけだ。
According to the clock, it was almost midnight. It certainly was a perfect time for a break. The atmosphere relaxed just a bit.
同感や。お互い一服するのも悪くないで。ほな以後は議事を取りながらにせんか。言った言わないはもうごめんや。
まったくだわ。下の根も乾かないうちにそんなことは言ってないなんて。平気で言い出す兄さんとの会議に議事録は必須だものね。
文字じゃ書くのも手間だし、インチキだっていくらでもできるわ。
そうだね。兄貴、こいつは動くのか。オーディオセットかね。
The tape set.
なるほど。それならば議事を手書きせずに済むし、捏造もできんね。互いにとって公平だ。
勝手にいじらないように。当主様の大切な音楽テープですよ。
His precious mixtapes that he did for Beatrice long time ago. The dignified tape set had a sense of weight to it, which matched this majestic dining hall perfectly. I wonder what kind of music Kinzo gave to Beatrice before. Not necessarily music that Beatrice liked, but what Kinzo thought that Beatrice liked. Probably something silly, but I don't know. I mean, this is before 1986. Hell, maybe this was like... Actually, was it even possible to make, like, tape? Like, music tape? Before 1986? Like, especially 1950s and such? I don't know. Kinda makes me think of those, of those disc records. Like, what were they called? Like, I was about to say megaphone, but the word... I cannot find the word for it. On pleasant Sunday mornings, it would sometimes be used to play famous tapes on records. However, right now, it was the most neutrally impartial conference record keeper around. Rudolph fished randomly around the cassette rack, searching for a blank tape. And every time he found some tape with sophisticated music, sophisticated, quote unquote, he would chuckle at how pompous it was.
失礼します。お呼びでしょうか。
休憩することになったの。申し訳ないんだけど、何か飲み物を用意してもらえないかしら。ビスケットみたいなものがあってもいいかもね。
かしこまりました。すぐにご用意いたします。
あと、ごめんなさい。風邪薬あるかしら。さっきから熱っぽくて。
なら無理は良くないな。休みたまえ。
ローザがいいと思うなら好きに休めば。
Okay, I can see that Kraus would want that because, well, less enemies to deal with.
私ならこの大事な会議中に風邪くらいじゃ休まないけどね。
そうかね。私は遠慮なく休ませてもらうよ。夏日、私たちも少し休まないかね。
はい、あなた。
Sensing that he meant to have a strategy meeting, Natsu stood up. Even if that wasn't the case, she was so desperate to get out of the room even for a moment that she'd have taken any excuse. Kraus and Natsu left the dining hall, and the tension in the room truly relaxed.
バトラ君もお疲れ様。最悪の気分でしょ。大人の階段だと思って諦めて。
俺はいつまでここでボサーっとしてりゃいいんすかね。
さあ、バトラ君は私たちのおみこしだからね。眠い？
古典の授業程度には。
今夜はどうせお父さんは現れないでしょう。クラウス兄さんたちが戻ってきたら、バトラ君はもう戻っていいかと提案してみるわ。
よろしく頼むぜ。
Tap, tap. A light knock and the faint sound of china clicking together could be heard.
失礼します。
Ah, Shannon. I haven't seen you in a really long time.
お茶をお持ちいたしました。
And you too, Kanon. Oh my. Seeing the both of you together like this. Such great memories. Shannon and Kanon had come by with a serving cart. The pleasant smell of black tea relieved their tension all the more. You know, guys, if you remember my talks during the investigation of 4th season and such, I did bring up like some idea of Kanon and Shannon being the one and the same, which, you know, on a surface level, I would say that that is no longer the case, since we see both of them here, and Balor is in the same room. But recently I did bring up the whole thing about the protagonist thing, and how, well, Balor is no longer the protagonist of this game. Hence, even if we see Shannon and Kanon, like both of them in the same room as Balor over here, that doesn't count. If I am to go with the idea that both of them are the same person and such, and they only share one body and such. So, if I am to say that Erika is the protagonist of Game 5 and such, because of Ben Castello and the Delta, if she were in this room, then it would have been impossible for Kanon and Shannon to be in the exact same room. If they share the same body, if they're one and the same and such. In that case, that would be impossible. However, even that doesn't work, because when Erika was introduced in the parlor, we had Shannon and Kanon there as well. So I don't know. Either my idea about the protagonist thing is wrong, or the idea of both of them being the one and the same is wrong. Like, I don't know. Like, I might have said some wrong things in the investigation video about canon because of my stupidity and how I forget details and such. But, I don't know, the idea of both of them being the one and the same, it had some evidence there. Like, I'm not gonna say that is a ludicrous idea and such, given the way Umineko is, and, well, like I said before, if it was revealed by the end of Game 4 that Kinzo was dead, even though we've clearly seen him alive throughout the games and such, if it was revealed that Kinzo was dead from the very start of the game, then anything can be possible, including both of them being together. Well, I meant to say that if Kinzo was dead from the start, and yet we've seen him, then both of them can be the one and the same. But I need more evidence for that. I need more evidence. I can totally believe that at least one of them is the culprit. Whether it's Shannon or Canon, I'm not sure. Or it can actually be both of them. They both work together. Because otherwise, some murders were done by Shannon in the first game. Or Canon. The murder in Natsu's room with George and with Goda and such, it can only have been done by Shannon. And the supposed death in the first game, during Kanon's first Twilight, he wasn't actually deaf. It could have been Kanon faking his death. So no matter how you splice it up, they are both connected to the murders, to the epitaph murders and such. So I think that is the one thing that I'm gonna be getting out of this. As for the both of them being the one and the same, I need more evidence for that.
Yo, 話は聞いてるか？
何のお話でしょうか。
僕たちは何も。
よしなさいルドルフ。教える必要は何もないわ。
僕たちは家具ですから、親族会議のお話には関心ありません。
そうね。それが賢い返事だわ。
深夜勤なの？大変ね。
そういうお役目ですので、ご用命いただけて嬉しいです。
そうかもしれんな。することもなくぼんやり起きてる方がしんどいもんや。わしも下積み時代に倉庫番とかやったことあるんやけどな。ただ起きてるだけでもこれがとにかく辛いんや。戦争直後はな、物資泥棒とかゾロゾロおってな。警察も頼れん時代でとにかく物騒でな。
I'm imagining Hideyoshi with a top hat during the times when mafia were a thing, with like Tommy guns and such. Boom, 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 boom. Hideyoshi was particularly proud of how he had started with nothing and built up assets by diverting goods from the American army. Once the subject came up, Hideyoshi tended to get pretty talkative. The relatives knew this and were greatly relieved to see that a perfect sacrifice had come up. Oh, Hideyoshi. So insightful. It was actually quite a surprise, like, in the last part, when you found the goal. Like, I think it was the first time I saw Hideyoshi so aggressive towards Natsuhi and Kraus when it comes to the gold and such. Like, I am tired of your crap! Give us the gold! Or stuff like that. It's not often you see that from Hideyoshi. Especially since, in comparison to the siblings, he is the least connected to how much suffering Kenzo had brought on the entire family, like, he is the one that suffered the least. Because, well, he was not Kenzo's son, that's for sure. The only thing that he had to worry about was Eva most of the time.
バレたら一大事や。アメさんは怖いで。牛肉食っとるからパワーも桁違いや。捕まったら最後銃殺刑かデスバイハンギングや。
Death by hanging, yeah.
わかるか？デスバイハンギング。
Death by hanging.
ああ、それでな、わしは思うたんや。肉や、肉や。
Niku!
日本人はもっと肉を食わなあかん。そしてわしは胃袋をつかむ商売を始めなあかんという典型を受けたんや。
Yeah, well, you know, it is nice that you Japanese people have all the fish in the world to eat. That is why you don't often see fat people in Japan as such. It's like I gotta give it to you, Japanese people. You surely know how to eat. I mean, you still have your junk food and such, but still. Yeah, fish. Yeah, fish everywhere.
それは大変なお仕事ですね。
よしなさいよあなた。戦後生まれにいくら話しても当時の苦労なんか伝わらないわよ。
I imagine that every single time Hideyoshi comes to Rokkenjima, in every single goddamn year, Hideyoshi starts talking about his past in front of Shannon. And every single time, Shannon is gonna be overwhelmed by all this information and she's gonna be like,
ん？またわしの悪い癖が出てしもうたな。すまん。
And then again, this could be a very important character, like, this could be like a very important character detail for Shannon that I'm missing over here, so I probably should pay attention to this.
あなたたちもお茶をしていきなさいよ。たまには自分たちがどういう紅茶を入れてるか、その下で学ぶのもいい勉強になると思うわ。
いえ、結構です。お気遣いなく。
少し付き合ってくれよ。大人ばかりで俺も窒息しそうなんだ。
そら、次期当主のバトラ様のご命令だぞ。
おい。
そこに座って、俺たちとしばらくお茶しろい。
What did I say about the word order? Nobody is allowed to say order.
それで、最近の出来事とか趣味とか、見てるテレビとか、若者の今の流行りとか、そういう話をしやがれ。
Actually, that would be pretty good. Yeah, tell us something about yourselves, Shannon. Do you have any similar interests, both of you?
俺たちの勉強になるからな。
明暗ね。ほら、二人とも座って。そして話題に飢えた私たちの生贄になってちょうだい。
Ugh. You just had to say sacrifices, eh, Kiryu?
そうやな。若い子と話をしよう思たら、キャバクラでもいかんとこの年では難しいわ。
いつまでぼさっと突っ立ってんのよ。ルドルフが座れと命令したわ。座りなさいよ。私も許可してあげるわ。
Oh no. I think I see what is going on over here. Or at least okay, I'm not gonna say that is exactly what is happening over here. Like I'm at least trying to be a little bit optimistic. Like a tiny bit optimistic towards the adults. But what if this is another part of their plan to gather information from Shannon and Kanon in regards to Kenzo and such? That is why they are having out here. That they are not actually interested in their persons and such. They're only interested in fishing information about Kenzo, Natsuki, and Kraus. In which case, shame on you, adults. Shame on you. For a while, the two were pounded by questions that became their elders' playthings. And you know, that might be That might be why Shannon and Kanon are even hesitant to begin with. Or, okay, maybe one of the reasons. Because they know that the adults are actually gonna try and fish information out of them. So that's why they're hesitant about staying here in the first place. Or they're hesitant about some other stuff that they don't want to find out. So, Tap tap. Another reserved knock could be heard. All the servants tend to knock in a similar manner, so no one noticed anything strange. However, Shannon and Kanon turned around with surprised looks on their faces. The servants here today included the two of them, Genji, Kumasawa, and Goda. Goda had the midnight shift at the guest house. Kumasawa had gone to bed in the servants' quarters in the guest house. And they weren't here, so Genji was the only person left. But they knew very well that Genji wouldn't knock like that.
誰だ?
Hmm?
開いてるぜ。勝手に入れよ。
Rudolph didn't recognize the knock either. And when he asked, who is it, everyone came to the same realization that they too had no idea who would knock like that. After that, the same knock repeated just once more. Could it be that someone had their hands full and was asking that the door be opened for them? Oh. As a slightly odd feeling began to encompass the room, the sound of the large clock in the hall could be heard. It was a sign that October 4th had ended, and October 5th had begun. A short while earlier, Krause and Natsuo were well away from the dining hall, in a deserted corridor on the second floor.
もうそれしか手はないのかね。
はい。明日一日、同じ手はもはや通用しないでしょう。これ以上を渋れば、エヴァさんたちはお父様を監禁しているなどと主張して警察に訴える可能性さえあります。もうこれが限界です。バトラ君が黄金を発見するのが全く想定外でした。あれさえなければなんとかうまくやりくりできる筋書きを考えていたのですが。
私がかけるといつもこうだな。いつも想定外のことが起き、絶対確実だった話がおかしくなる。
明日の朝、お父様の部屋が空っぽであるということにします。源氏と口裏を合わせ、早朝に森へ出かけていくのを見たと言わせましょう。
その思想をエヴァたちが素直に受け入れるとは思えん。
客も承知です。
Especially Eva.
しかし、もうそれしか手がありません。
そのようなことをすれば、エヴァたちは疑わしいと騒ぎ立てるだろう。エヴァたちは金をせしめるためなら、なりふりなど構うまい。それこそおかしな雑誌とつるんで、私の信用にダメージを与えてくるかもしれない。
ダメージで済むではありませんか。万一にもお父様の秘密を知られたら、それどころでは済みません。
明日一日をギリギリまで粘ってからでも遅くはない。もしも明日を無事に乗り切ることができれば、私たちは何も失うものはないのだ。焦って失踪という切り札を切る必要はない。
彼らがお父様を監禁していると騒ぎ立て、そこに失踪していたと返すのですか。その方がはるかに疑いを招きます。もうお父様にお休みいただきましょう。これ以上は無理です。
落ち着きたまえ。エヴァたちの毒気を浴びすぎて冷静を失っただけだ。
The toxin.
あの書斎に入る鍵は2本しかない。そしてその2本はここに君が持っている。 だから誰も入ることなどできん。あの扉は特別性だ。彼らが倉庫からどんな工具を持ってこようともびくともせんよ。
そういう物理的な問題ではありません。
だから焦るな。落ち着け。なんなら君は熱を出したことにして寝込んでいてくれればいい。その間に私が全て乗り切ってみせる。
あなただけに任せられません。私も最後まで戦います。